Alright, so of the body mounts that were left, we had one, maybe two good ones. But yeah, not a whole lot still holding that car body on. Alright, well that was a little bit of work. If you didn't notice, I put two spreader bars in just to kind of hold the lower door area in spacing. I didn't worry about anything front to back because previously trying to fix all the rust and rot on this car, I put in angle iron along the bottom of the doors on both sides. So that's probably more than enough strength there right now to kind of hold that shape, so that's why I wasn't worried about it. My crossbars to tie it together are just in like the meat of the front and back of the door. I'm not worried about this side skirt that's folding off of there right now. The thing was only welded on there. I did that in high school. So now that it's popped through the putty, it's only spot welded in a few places along the whole seam. I already had to cut it free from the front fenders in order to remove the front fenders this morning, which I've already started disassembling a little bit. Largely just get ready to put that body on. In the last, well, I guess 2 videos ago, I was still really kind of questioning what the plan was here. However, I've kind of come up with maybe the compromise ideas. Instead of stripping this down, cleaning it, and painting it as is, I can put the body on, do my roll cage work, only tack it to the frame, do all my gusseting and tying the roll cage into the body that I'm planning on doing, at which point then I can cut the tacks and the roll cage and body should be able to come off free without affecting the body, because I'll have to have those 2 support bars out anyway, as well as modifying stuff around the bottom of the door depending on where it ends up with these outer rails. But at least at that point in time I can separate it into 2 pieces, take care of the areas that must be taken care of when I have limited access there, and then put it back on, weld it, and then maybe then the car can go to blasting and painting, which would be great because I want to pick a cool color for the frame and the cage for sure. And I know this seems at this point in time the best compromise for that situation. But I'll probably have to put the body on, kind of wheel it around, get it positioned, and then kind of reassess at that point. I imagine there's going to be some cutting around the bottom of the door sill just to kind of get everything to fit down, and I really can't do or plan on any of that until actually trying to fit the body. Now what? Nom nom nom. warm? I'm getting warm. Not to the back bar. Just so we're clear, I have no plan with this other than like trying to put it in place. So we're just figuring it out as I go. Fall off the side. We're kind of there. Getting close. That's clearly a little to the back, so the body's got to go to the rear, which makes sense since we're touching the tire in the front anyway. Pretty sure I got the wheelbase right. If not, we are adjustable in the back right now completely because we can go forward and backwards with the lower control arms. I have no upper yet. The only thing is we might be kind of limited on the shock positioning for the coilovers. Just so before they hit the brackets kind of thing, and our Watts link. So that's all. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Axle's rolled forward. That's why it's so far off up here. Makes total sense now. Okay, no need to panic. Alright, well right now it's not going to be able to sit in proper position, which I knew going in. For starters, I got to cut off this old side skirt that I made. That was a modification all the way back in high school. There might be some internals. You know, you can see that rocker panel's all rusted out anyway. So the idea is I'm going to cut away that, and the whole body is going to sink down and use that outer tube as the rocker panel. Or at least that's my plan so far. You see we've got interference in the back corners here with the frames, so there's going to be material that needs to get cut away there. Specifically because we got to move the body back, I think probably 4 inches or so. So all this stuff has got to move to the rear. Yeah, I mean, we got plenty of room off the back of the frame where we'll have to build, you know, bumper supports and stuff. Or coilover mount. Like, everything's inboard enough there that we don't have much problem. We'll be able to put huge wheel tubs in this thing. Probably be able to fit any size tire we want on the back when it's all said and done. But just gonna have to get it fit closer into position, because ideally the goal here is get it in place, and then we can I can get some tubing either ordered or go pick some up so that we can start getting a roll cage put in this thing and planned out and all that good stuff. So we'll see. Alright, we're getting pretty close. However, obviously it still needs to go down 6 inches or so. Or at least that's the plan. Looks like the back doesn't need to quite go down that far, so we might We might end up in a slightly different spot than originally intended. I don't know, maybe we'll just go down this far and put this seam kind of at the top. That might make a nice gap at the rear tire. However, I'm going to have to cut away more of the rocker panel. Not that it's super structurally sound as it is, but I don't trust this little bit of angle iron running front to back to really be holding the integrity of it, just because that was kind of put in just to kind of hold a floor at one point in time, and we'll probably end up cutting all that out anyway. So I got some more pipe here. I'm going to add spreader bars front to back. That should just take the load to keep this and the front and the back of the door areas all squared up, kind of a thing, without moving anywhere. And then I can start cutting away a little bit more. We're pretty good front to back. It's getting pretty close. The car still needs to go to the back a little bit. You can see I'm cutting away, you know, some material there, but we're starting to hit again. And the big reason I want to brace this in more is the more material I keep cutting away from there, the weaker that whole section's going to get, even before I start dropping it down. So right now it's sitting on the rocker on the frame. The tire is touching on the outside. It's touching on the inner fender as well. And the roof height is the same as the car that I've been racing, this other one here. But this body needs to go lower. I know if I want to put this edge right here, which would be the bottom of the door, at the top of the frame rail, that's another, it's 2 inches here at the back, it's 2.5 in the front, which that little bit of tilt down might gain us just a tiny little clearance here, but with the size of these tires, like, we're going to have to cut out the outer fender or quarter panel here, as well as the inner fender, just to get it into that position. So at this point, I think I'm going to jack it back up, and we'll start cutting away the rocker in order to be able to get it down that far. And then I'm going to have to either pull the tires back off, but I kind of want them in there just for making sure that we're kind of eyeballing center. I'll probably need to laser this car center to the frame at some point. It's kind of nice right now because the little like weld seam of the inner fenders is just tucked on the inside of both tires on the back. And I know that I centered the rear end when I set up the Watts link in the first place, so it's kind of like a self-aligning thing right now, but I gotta cut all that away in order to get this thing lower. Well, I've chopped away the inner fender, trying to leave as much structure with like towards the top of the trunk mount as possible, just try to keep some strength in it. Now I'm gonna have to, it'd be nice if I just slit the lip off of here, and maybe this part of the quarter will just push out a little bit. Of course, all these screws holding the trim are completely rusted off. Not that I give a crap about the trim, but I want to keep like this edge on the front and the back for sure. We might end up, you know, moving the opening up because of how low the body's going to be, but I don't want to just, you know, go back 2 inches and just chop all the way around, or just like cut up into it like this if I don't have to. I mean, once I cut this seam off of here, this is going to be loose anyway, but there's probably going to be some inner fender that's got to get hammered up out of the way, kind of like what I did on the back of this car to make more clearance. You can see I've hammered in, you know, like all that was kind of cut and then hammered up to make more tire clearance. And then the lip is cut away, so plan will be do the same thing on that for now, just to get it so that the body will drop down over the top of it. There wasn't much rocker left to hold on to anything. We are getting there. Well, I got where, right about back here, there's actually still a little bit of a lip on the inside of the rocker that's holding it up. by, I don't know, maybe half an inch or so. So it'd probably actually come down on the fender back here, you know, a bit more, maybe almost to just tuck in the rim. Obviously, this will have to change and get, you know, a bigger opening cut in it and tubbed out and everything later. So right now, up in the front, the frame tube is actually tucked up inside of the rocker a little bit on both sides. And on the back, we're still kind of sitting on top. That's where that, you know, about ½ inch difference on the front. I did throw the seat in there and sit down and like kind of check, and I'm pretty sure I still have another 1 to 2 inches where I could come down even lower and still have safe clearance for, you know, the 2 inches from the top of the roll bar to the top of my helmet kind of a thing. I don't know, this is probably 1.5 inches. So we might end up, or what I might end up doing is just cutting this up to this seam here, or right about that edge. So, and drop that down again where, you know, this vertical face will become frame as that vertical face, and maybe that's what I was planning on right off the bat. I can't remember which step it was. I thought it was this one, but we definitely got room to go lower. I was actually worried about the helmet height thing, but now that I know that that's going to be okay, yeah, we could go even lower here to the point where, I mean, the idea would be at once I'm ready to, this entire door sill can get welded right to the frame to seam it along the whole length, turning it into a unibody car basically. And there'll be, you know, once the roll cage is in, it's going to be tied in everywhere anyway. And then part of the frame will be hidden right behind the door. It'll just be a flat surface underneath it. So, you know, we might want to do, you know, a new like rocker panel, or really actually what probably happen is I'll end up doing like a side skirt thing that comes out, and then I can just go off of the frame with that and build it in. You know, or we can have it where it, you know, screws onto the frame. You know, there's plenty of options when we get to that point. But if we get the car down another, you know, 1.5 inches here, body-wise, we'll for sure be tucking rim in the back. You know, when the front fenders go on, they'll be tucking as well, and the openings will have to get changed anyway. But the lower everything gets, the lower the center of gravity is, and yeah, this is starting to be sweet. Alright, I just gotta say, I keep giggling to myself a little bit, and I haven't been this excited about this car in at least 10, maybe 11 years. Like when I first started like kind of building on it, and I think even then I was less excited and more nervous that I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I'm just, oh, so excited. This is awesome. Looking at the sill here a little bit more for the door. So my plan was to cut this out, and I think everything's working out where I should be able to do that. So there's, you know, the rocker here, or the door sill, is a separate piece from the structure at the front and the back, which comes out to here. In there, I should be able to drill the spot welds out and completely remove that piece. There'll be a little bit of cutting the seams up on front to get to the front of the frame rail, and probably the same at the back. But once that stuff's cut out of the way, it really should just slide down over and, you know, just be tight, where at that point, you know, all this will be gone, but the sides on the front and the back will actually be able to just be clamped right to the frame and spot welded again. So that'll eliminate all of this, and then it'll just be like the top of the frame that's exposed, you know, when the door is open, kind of a thing. And, you know, and that's what we're planning on tying into the floor and stuff anyway. So, whew, yeah, it's exciting. Got that rocker completely out. As you can see, I was drilling the spot welds. Well, as you can see, I was drilling the spot welds out, trying to take this thing out in one piece. And largely, that's because this whole flat edge along here. Should be able to spot weld directly to the frame later. So I didn't want to damage these, I don't know what you want to call them, they're the front and rear of the door structure at all. I mean, this surface is angled so it won't sit completely flat on here, but that's fine. We can make a piece later to blend that out, or I mean really I can just kind of hammer this down so that's flat, and this will just be where the floor starts. And really, I mean, the door's going to close, the door hangs down to like this corner right here, so all of that'll really be hidden, and we're not worried about making this thing absolutely air and water tight because it's a race car, so shouldn't be an issue. It'll, you know, but if I want to make a trim piece and if we want to try to put a door seal on it, I mean, it's all just sheet metal work later on that can be done if desired. Now this is where it's going to sit. Heck yeah. That is tucking an 18-inch wheel at ride height. One thing I'm looking at is just trying to check this car, you know, where the body's sitting at, square. You can see that, you know, where the axle's sitting right now is a little bit forward compared to the body, or the body's a little bit rearward compared to the car. However, if I check side to side, so passenger side gap versus driver side gap, and that makes me think that the body is twisted and needs to turn. However, we are absolutely sandwiched tight to these flanges on both sides. There's literally nowhere that I can adjust it right now without modifying or tweaking these areas. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, the body is sitting square to the frame. Unless, of course, we assume that I just totally screwed up on the frame as far as where things end up, which I don't think it'd be that off. I mean, we're talking like a finger and a half difference side to side, so I'm willing to bet that the majority of that is just in the quarter panels themselves, and I'm okay making that conclusion because I've never even been able to get this car to match. Even though I can pull a tape measure, make sure that the wheelbase is like right there and that it's the rear axle is square to the frame, and it just doesn't match side to side. So I think that's just manufacturing tolerances or stack up of tolerances that makes these car bodies not be super consistent side to side. And all of that is pretty much irrelevant at this point in time, simply because we're going to be totally redoing the fender well openings, like completely, because of going to the wide body. You know, you can see that tire width compared to the rear is tucking in the stock body right now. And I don't know, if I wanted to decide to later to skip the wide body thing, we can certainly tuck in the front some more. I mean, there's tons of room up here. It's just I really want that big steering angle. Be really nice, you know, and I'm not even utilizing all of it. Like, there's so much more room here where, you know, just a different offset wheel and we could tuck that in. But I would really like to be able to have the option of, we just have tons of room everywhere. I can put as big of a wheel I could possibly ever want on the front, and it's just going to be a non-issue.